of Higher Education and Research, Mysuru, was supposed to inaugurate. We understand that he is stuck up. He is busy with some meetings, urgent meetings at Coimbatore. So we have requested our director sir for this program, and luckily we are fortunate also he is with us. So we have Dr. H R Mahadevaswamy, Director Technical Education Division, JSS Mahavidyapeetha, Mysuru. He is a result-oriented person with more than 35 years of proven experience in teaching, invention-based research, intellectual property creation, filing and licensing, ESP, image and video processing, software development, system test, automotive infotainment, embedded system setting up and managing offshore development centers, administration management. He was working as principal at Jawaharlal Nehru National College of Engineering, Shivamogga. He worked as a group head, a car infotainment at Robert Bosch, and program manager at Satyam Computers Limited for several years. I wholeheartedly welcome you, sir, for this particular program on behalf of everyone present here and on my personal behalf. I welcome moderators of today's program, Engineer Er.Anil Kumar Pillai, General Manager, Technical Services, MACE, the Ramco Cements Ltd, and also I thank the Ramco Cements for providing the online platform to conduct this particular program. I also welcome today's speakers, Dr. Ashwath M.U., President, Association of Consulting Civil Engineers, India, Madam Supriya Tyagarajan, Managing Principal, Perkins Eastman Green Educational Projects in USA and India, Mr. Mahesh Baswana, Managing Director, McDible Environment Laboratories Private Limited, Mr. Atif Muhammad Syed, Project Lead, India Green Buildings Program, International Finance Corporation, Vasudevan R. Kadiyar, Principal Architect, Ecumene Habitat Solutions Private Limited, Bangalore. I also welcome coordinators of the program, Dr. Swamy, DR, Head, Center for Interdisciplinary Research, and Dr. Santhosh, DS, Head of the Department, Civil Engineering, and their supporting faculties, Mr. Krishna Prasad and Madam Abdullah. It's my pleasure to welcome all the participants, teaching fraternity, research scholars, students, my all colleagues, and industry professionals. I would like to welcome all the heads of the departments and teams and all my faculty colleagues. Just brief about JSS. JSS Jagadguru Sri Shivaratri Academy of Technical Education, Bengaluru, was founded in 1997. It is an integral part of JSS Mahavidyapeetha, Mysuru. JSSATEB Bangalore has been providing a value-added higher education in engineering and technological sciences with the blessings of Jagadguru Sri Shivaratri Mahadevaswamy, the 24th Pontiff and the President of Mahavidyapeetha. JSSATEB has continuously striving to ensure that good education and societal requirements are taken care. And with this, I once again thank the organizers for providing me to welcome the audience and the chief guest. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for welcoming.
Santhosh, please.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for welcoming address. So now I request our director, Dr. H R Mahadevaswamy, sir, to inaugurate the program and to deliver the opening remarks.
So good afternoon, everyone. Seeking blessings of His Holiness Sri Jagadguru Yeshikyan Mahaswamy Gadavaru, dignitaries present in this program, galaxy of participants from all across the globe, other invitees, colleagues, and press and media. So I take this opportunity to thank all the organizers, Ramco Cements, IFC, ACCE, JSS Academy of Technical Education, Bangalore, for hosting this program and parting the platform to know about Green Campus and importance of the Green Campus, bringing together the people across the globe. So as a theme, the green campus, maybe the thing comes, so when thinking about how to improve the campus sustainability, many of us left with a feeling of what can I do for the environment. So this is a normal question everyone will get. While there are few commonly known practices, for the most part, it is relatively simple to maintain a green lifestyle. It is more just a matter of adjusting awareness and the behavior. So campuses hold a special significance in our educational fabric, but that was not always the case. Earlier, one could sit under a tree and learn about the world. Today, however, the infrastructure reflects the complexity of our lives. A campus is not only about classrooms or space, but several processes that are invisible to the eye. How does the water move and reach every tap? Where does the water come from? Where does it go after the use on the campus? So it is, after all, among the many resources that I have a story to tell. So this is a normal scenario in most of the campus. Let each of you and the campus start initiative to capture the story of these resources to transform our campuses into tools of sustainable education. So this program definitely is going to be a platform to know how we can proceed in this direction. The campus should have eco-friendly campus policy, which is a must in this particular scenario, with a clear-cut goals related to climate action, management of water resources, management of energy resources, preservation of plants and trees, conservation of ecosystem and wildlife, and productive use of land. So the campus to undertake kitchen gardening. Students will cultivate the mangoes, the vegetables, fruits, whatever in the kitchen garden. The campus to reduce the air conditioning of classrooms, instead relies on the optimized window to wall ratio, good shading devices, and built features that enhance the natural ventilation. These passive design strategies are the first line of defense against consuming relatively high energy. I hope in this particular day, in the sessions to come, many of these resources going to highlight the importance of this at and other people going to highlight about the particular thing about the reservation. Managing the water and waste is a very important aspect of the campus. The campus to have water bodies that help harvest the rainwater and manage storm water. So can have minor reservoirs help the replenish the groundwater table. The campus to have waste management methods by having segregation at the source. This does also to be expanded to waste management initiatives to go beyond the campus. That means the students who are the ambassadors, they should go to villages nearby, holding awareness campaign and street plays, promote the idea of plastic-free village. And also not just that, air quality improvement is also important. The campus is to have a restricted vehicle policy wherein only motor vehicles can be used inside the campus by those having a pass. Hostel students are not permitted to keep motor vehicles while day scholars in the common transport facility provided by the university. So with this, many of the things which can be implemented, maybe I guess the faculty and the research scholars and students who are in this particular program, I request all of them to take these policies pledged to sustain the environment in days to come and preserve the campuses to make the green campus. With this, I just declare that this program is inaugurated. Thank you very much for giving the opportunity to inaugurate this program. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for your elaborate address. So, as a token of appreciation, I request Dr. D R Swamy, sir, to hand over the bouquet to our director, Dr. H R Mahadevaswamy.
Yeah,
Thank you very much, sir.
Please go ahead.
So now I request Engineer Anil Kumar Pillai, sir, General Manager, Technical Services, the Ramco Cements Limited, to take over the session to moderate the technical event.
Thank you so much and welcome to this event on Green Campus. I think this is there is no option now because it has become a necessity, I believe, that we talk about green environment, because when we talk about sustainability, the very definition says that we need to preserve the resources for the future generations, and at the same time we need to ensure that our needs are met. Now, how do we do that is a major challenge that all of us are facing in our respective fields, and I'm sure that we need to take this forward. So thank you JSS for having taken this initiative, and thanks to Dr. Santhosh BS, Dr.Mruthunjay V Latte, Dr. Suresh, Dr. Mahadevaswamy for personally taking a lot of initiatives in this regard. And of course we have a galaxy of speakers today who would share their experiences with us, which I am sure would go a long way in ensuring that the sustainability initiatives are met. Now, today we have speakers. We have Dr. Ashwath MU, who would be speaking first, and thereafter we have Mrs. Supriya Tyagarajan, the Managing Principal of Perkins Eastern. We have Mr. Mahesh Basavanna, who would be talking next. Then we have Mr. Atif Mohammed Syed, and then finally we have Mr. Vasudevan R. Kadalail, who would again be talking about Green Campus, a new approach to institutional design. So that would be the chronological order of the talk. So just before starting our this thing, let me just share a few initiatives that we have also been taking in our organization. First and foremost is, of course, the promotion of blended cement, which ensures sustainability, both Portland Pozzolana cement, slag cement, and the concept of right product for right application, because the right cement that can be used for various types of works, which again is a step towards sustainability. And the third and the most important thing is about the research and development activities that we are taking at our Ramco Research and Development Center in making a concrete mixed design which is economical, because we cannot neglect concrete, we cannot ignore concrete. If we have to grow, we need to use concrete, but how do we use it in a way that is sustainability is the question. So in that regard, we have been doing a lot of research works, and the main thing is optimizing the quantity of various materials and at the same time ensuring that the durability of structure is taken care of. So how do we implement the method of measuring durability of concrete at site is something that we need to look at, and that we have been doing at our R&D center, which can be replicated at site as well. So that is one major thing that we need to follow. Of course, the manufacturing process, the technology that we need to have at cement manufacturing process, the latest technology that we have implemented right from mining till packing, the surface miners, which is environmental friendly, and various technological initiatives which are there. And of course, the various awareness programs that we have been able to give to our customers, to our stakeholders in coordination with various experts, which I am sure would go a long way in ensuring the sustainability in concrete structures. Now, to begin with, let me request the first speaker, Dr. Ashwath, who has been taking a lot of initiatives, in fact, in collaboration with us through Association of Consulting Civil Engineers on various occasions. So let me just give a brief introduction of the first speaker, Dr. Ashwath MU. He is presently working as principal at Bangalore Institute of Technology, Bangalore, and is the president Association of Consulting Civil Engineers. He was academic senate member and chairman board of studies, Visvesvaraya Technological University. He also served as GC member of ACC for several terms and as secretary for Bangalore Center. He was also a vice president Indian Concrete Institute, served as chairman of ICI Bangalore Center. He has more than 25 years of professional experience as structural consultant. He published more than 200 papers at national and international journals, conferences, and organized more than 300 workshops, seminars for professionals. And he has also authored a number of books like Alternatives to River Sand, Reference Manual for Field Engineers on Building Construction. He has got many awards like Eminent Engineers by ACCEI Bangalore Center, Achievement Award for Outstanding Academicians, CIDC Vishwakarma Award 2014, Vocational Excellence Award, Academician Par Excellence by Rotary RBSCE. He has been felicitated by the Chief Minister for editing reference manual for field engineers on building construction. He also is a FKCCI committee member, Human Resources and Skill Development, has membership with ISTE, Indian Society for Technical Education, ACCEI, ACI India, ICI Instruct, ACHMMS, INS DAG, IIB, Institute of Engineers India, and a number of professional bodies. So it's always pleasure to interact with Dr. Ashwath as well as the Association of Consulting Civil Engineers. In fact, the professional body itself has been taking a lot of initiative. In fact, I had the privilege of interacting with one of the members of ACCEI, Mr. Engineer Rajendra Kalbhavi, who has done a lot of work on rainwater harvesting. So a lot of work has been done by the professional body. Over to you, Dr. Ashwath, for your presentation. You would be having something to present on, so that I would make you the presenter now.
Yes, sir, please.
Welcome to this meeting, and over to you, Dr. Ashwath. And you can just check whether you can share your presentation. I'll just make you the presenter. I think Suraj has,
Yeah,
now
thank
you
you.
can,
Yes, sir.
we are able to see your presentation. Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. As Anil said, ACC and Anil together, we have done a lot of programs. In fact, a huge number of activities during this pandemic. I thank once again for your support extended to JSS Academy of Technical Education for this program. In fact, this is a very important and focused program for all the campuses, because campuses, we normally, many of the campuses, normally we don't focus on the green initiatives. We just focus on our classrooms and teaching learning process. But of late, as we keep talking about sustainability and other related issues, many of the schemes from the All India Council for Technical Education and central government, UGC, they insist, even in fact, during the annual inspections also, the authorities ask for various initiatives that campuses have taken in this direction. So in the last few years, I can say in the last 5 years, many campuses have taken a lot of interest in greening their campuses in the overall sustainability issues. So since this program is also supported by Association of Consulting Civil Engineers, I would take few minutes to talk about the Association of Consulting Civil Engineers and what we are doing as a national professional body. The main thing that we are working is bringing all the civil engineering community together. In the last 2 years, we are focusedly working and collaborating with various other professional bodies other than civil engineering also to bring and make some synergy between the bodies to work together for the betterment of the society. So when we talk about the betterment of society, then all these initiatives, green initiatives, sustainability initiatives, everything will be taken care automatically. So the main vision of our association is to foster ideas of the profession, promote friendship, establish rules for the professional and ethical conduct, and to develop social awareness and responsibility in the members. So each word here, the vision of the Association of Consulting Civil Engineers clearly indirectly touch upon the various initiatives that we have to do in the interest of the society, whether it is awareness building and responsibility, instilling the ethics and other conduct among the members. Finally, all civil engineers are directly connected to the society, civil society, and one way or the other we will be impacting on the various aspects of the society. So it is very important that association is also taking all the possible efforts in making our members sensitive to the society. Once we are sensitive, then many of these sustainability issues can be taken care automatically. So the main mission to encourage and foster ideals of the profession. This is mainly done through the conferences, meetings, seminars, etc. And promote friendship, establish rules for the professional ethical conduct, and mainly we bring about programs on latest technological advancements in the world to the members and prepare them to carry out the futuristic designs with an eye on assurance of quality. So quality and sustainability are most talked about words these days, and ACC is giving a lot of importance for these aspects. So I will get into the core values of the association. As nation builders, we are endowed with creating a new era which is sustainable, a new dawn where we value our limited natural resources, and a new world order where our future generation can breathe a sigh of relief. So if you look at the core value on which the Association of Consulting Civil Engineers function, all the aspects are mentioned here are connected directly to the topic of today's discussion, and in general the sustainability of the resources, and using maximum natural resources and conserving the natural resources. So I can proudly say, even before people are talking about the sustainability and the various issues today, association, when it started during the year 1983 and formally from 1985, we have been working on these principles, and whatever activities that we do, whether it is for the members, whether it is for the general public, whether it is for the professionals or for the students, we have been directly touching upon these aspects. And as we move on, we have understood the importance of these things at various levels, organization level and at the educational institutions level. That's why I will take a few minutes to talk about the importance of creating student bodies at various campuses to take care of these green campus initiatives. So we have various working groups, focused working groups at ACCE. One is ACCA Foundation, which supports these kind of initiatives, green campus initiatives kind of thing. And we have focused institutes, I would like to mention here. This is mainly functioning on the sustainability principle. Whatever area of construction, whatever area of infrastructure development we are talking about, we give a lot of importance for the sustainability. And we have been conducting a lot of activities on sustainability issues and various aspects, and focused institutes are working on these issues. And we also have a ACC studio, which carries the interviews and case study discussions, interactions with the senior members, and identifying and giving solutions to the societal problems through media interactions and interaction with the local and government organizations. So for doing this, we also deliberately do collaborations, like we have joined together today with Ramco and JSS. Whenever there is an opportunity, ACC will not look back. We extend all kinds of support and possible interactions so that collectively together we can make some difference in whatever aspects which are touching the society. So we do a lot of collaborative activities as well. And this is another very important issues and advocacy. We identify the various issues the civil engineers are facing and the society is facing, and we deliberate, brainstorm, and give solutions through our experts to the concerned bodies for betterment of the day-to-day activities. And we also do a lot of publications through our association. And for this, we extend a lot of membership benefits, and we assist each and every member. And if the members are better, if they are efficient, definitely the activities they do, the interactions they do for the society will be more benefited in the larger perspective. So we have exclusive membership development where we have regular members and various centers. We have many centers across the country, and we are giving from last few years, we are giving more focused importance for the student chapters. This is where the today's aspect that I wanted to talk about, creating student bodies and various colleges connected to green campus initiatives so that they can take charge and implement all the aspects and thought process that we think finally it will be made realized in the campuses through the student chapters. And in BIT, in Bangalore Institute of Technology, where I'm serving from last 20-25 years, is we have created lot of student bodies, not only in Green Campus connected eco-friendly initiatives, but many issues, whether it is cultural activities, technical activities, or startup culture, entrepreneurship cell. So lot of activity clubs have been started, and it is not new to many campuses. It is well established practice that these student bodies, as vibrant as they are, the campus becomes very dynamic and vibrant, and the efficiency in the campus, so in any activity that we take, directly related to the active student clubs in the campus. So we have many clubs, not only in BIT, but in many campuses, student activity clubs are there. Looking at the success of these student activity clubs, I am proposing through this interaction to all the campuses that they are participating today to initiate separate student activity clubs, so that the green campus initiatives that we talk about for the sustainability can be implemented very effectively. So as Anil was also mentioning, a lot of deliberations are happening throughout the world on the sustainability development goals, and by 2030, and it is targeted that all these goals will be implemented effectively. And if you look at all these 17 goals, whatever we talk about for the good of the society are connected with all these 17 development goals. And I'm sure all higher educational institutions like BIT or JSS organizations have a greater role to play in each of these 17 development goals in the implementation. So we have been working on these principles, and as I mentioned, the ACCI Institute works on sustainability, and we have carried out recently a series of activities, expert lectures on sustainable engineering series from 26 September to 28 November. 1 month we carried articles by various eminent experts. And as Anil was mentioning, Rajendra Kalbavi from Mangalore also gave a talk on optimizing and saving water in achieving green construction. And I spoke on role of academia in achieving sustainability development goals and the provisions in the new education policy towards SDG 4, that is quality education. So ACCE is making all its efforts to turn all the stones so that there will be some impact, some useful activity from our organization, and we continue to do this. And as I mentioned, at BIT we have 30 plus activity clubs, and all these activity clubs are very dynamic. And if you can see here, we have clubs like Rotaract Club, which takes care of all the activities which are concerned directly to the society. And we have a club called as Eco Club, where these green initiatives and other related activities is taken care by these Eco Club at BIT. And this is present from last many years in our campus. So these kind of student activity clubs will definitely make impact. And I'm not talking about the theme of today's presentation. I'm not a speaker, just giving some backdrop and overall remarks on the importance and necessity of the student clubs, because the expert speakers are there. They will get into directly the theme of today's discussion. So my focus is to stress the effective student activity club in a campus will definitely make a difference and implement all the aspects and objectives of the Green Campus initiatives. So we have at BIT, as I said, the activity clubs, and the number of students participate in each of these green initiatives is enormous, and that gives a lot of energy even to the faculty members to implement any such initiatives for the overall efficiency of the campus. So some of the we not only conduct activities among our student community and faculty community, but our student bodies, the campus clubs are energized and so dynamic. They get into other campuses, bring the school children at the early age. They instill these importance of these initiatives, and we can see the kind of energy and bubbling people during the events. And once they get inspired and motivated, and nobody can stop them in implementing these kind of activities. So there are many such initiatives that we have done at VIT, and I'm sure and confident that a student club at a campus will take care of all these kind of activities. And thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to say a few words about the Association of Consulting Civil Engineers and Bangalore Institute of Technology and the initiatives that we have taken, irrespective of the campus size, because we are in the heart of the city and we have a small campus, but irrespective of the size, the objectives can be implemented if we have a mind and will to do. So I urge all of you to take initiatives to start eco clubs at your campuses and nurture the student clubs so that the objectives can be met. Thank you very much, Anil and Santhosh, for inviting me.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ashwath MU, because always, it's a pleasure meeting Dr. Ashwath MU, because he is a very good example of how we can bridge academics and industry, by connecting academics to the industrial body. I think it's a very good example of that. And it's very nice to see various initiatives that has been followed at Bangalore Institute of Technology, like, the students working groups on sustainability and various other initiatives that you have taken. And I'm sure that it's a good learning process for all of us. Thank you so much, Dr. Ashwath, for sharing that, as well as, taking a lead in spreading good practices also amongst professionals, because that is very important, because unless the practices are not shared with the professionals, there is no use of it. So he has also been taking a lot of initiatives in that area. So thank you so much. And the next speaker would be Mrs. Supriya.
Before
Yes.
I close, I
Please.
extend all the support from the Association of Consulting Civil Engineers for any activity in any campus for the students and faculty. Our expert members are readily available and willing to support these kind of initiatives.
Thank you so much for that. So I think that's a very good support that has been extended by Bangalore Institute of Technology. Now the next speaker is Mrs. Supriya Tyagarajan, who would be talking to us. Before I go to the speaker, let me just give a brief introduction of her. I think she would be talking about global trends in education. A brief introduction of Mrs. Supriya. In a country where less than 1/3 of workforce is comprised of women, Supriya champions design excellence as an architect and unparalleled professional leadership. With more than 15 years of experience working in India and the United Kingdom, she brings expertise in higher education and planning to projects with major clients across Southeast Asia and globally. Dedicated to maintaining important relationships and building new ones, she has been instrumental in the growth and success as managing principal of the Mumbai studio. In her spare time, Supriya enjoys driving through bustling streets of the city and mountains of India. So that's very interesting to note that. Supriya fosters the collaborative, hardworking, and social culture of the Mumbai studio. She and few colleagues share 3 meals each day together while working together on projects around the world. So that's very interesting to know, Supriya Tyagarajan, from your side. And we all are eager to hear from you and to see what we can implement from the learnings that we can get from you. So over to you. Thank you for joining us. So you have some presentation so that I will make you
I do. So thank you, Mr. Anil. That was a very wonderful introduction. I have a presentation to share. So if you could make me the.
I'll just a second. Now you are the presenter?
Yeah.
You can share the presentation. Over to you. Thank you.
Okay. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, we are able to see.
Okay, great. Good afternoon, everyone. And again, thank you for the introductions. Today, I'll be speaking about designing high performance learning environment, something that is very relevant to all of us today. Very quickly, we will make introduction to the firm. I'll briefly touch upon themes for 21st century learning and 2 case studies for net positive education. And we'll understand a little bit more about what we mean by net positive education. So very quickly, Perkins Eastman was founded in 1981. We are a firm which globally we have about 1,000 people, and we have 17 different offices, and it's headquartered in New York. We have 14 different practice areas that we work under, and each practice area is led. Sorry, just excuse me for a second. Each practice area is led by um, just give me 1 second. This is sir, I'm unable to share the screen. Okay, let me just try again.
Yeah, we are able to see that you're sharing it. Yes. Are you going to share some video or something?
Can you see now?
Yes, we are able to see that.
Okay, great. Thank you. Sorry. So just quickly going through. Yes, so we have 17 different offices, and we have an office in Mumbai as well. We work under 14 different practice areas, typically residential, commercial, you know, and then we also have other specialized practice areas like uh, sorry, 1 second. Specialized practice. I don't know why this is jumping so much. Just give me 1 second. Yeah. Specialized practice areas like healthcare. This is our Mumbai team. Um, and this is, we've been around now for 10 years in India, and we've largely been doing, education projects. Quickly looking at themes for 21st century education, this is important in terms of learning environment. And we want to touch base on some of these points right now so that we realize that when we start designing for spaces within a learning environment, we want to cater to these, to these themes as well. So we have 5 themes that are running across our learning environments. Learning itself, learning has changed so much. We don't have two students learning the same way, they don't have the same ability to learn. So we have to create spaces where different students are able to learn differently. We have extroverts and introverts. Extroverts learn more with engaging, introverts need their own space. We need space for collaboration. We need space for outdoor learning. And all of these need to start being provided in a learning environment. Same way, teaching has not been now can't only be confined to a classroom or a lecture hall. Teaching needs to be done outdoors. Teaching needs to be done within the community. Teaching has to be now being supported by media, multimedia, digital platforms. If there are project-based learnings, or if there are, inquiry-based learnings, we need collaborative classroom layouts. So teaching itself has changed so much. Then community, forming community within, within the school body, within the student community, and then of course engaging with the larger community. I mean, Bangalore Institute was a great example where there are these committees formed to, actually do this kind of outreach, and that's very important when we're talking about sustainability and a learning environment. Sustainability, of course, we're talking about economic sustainability, we're talking about social sustainability, and we obviously talking about energy, and how we can, in a learning environment, ensure that all these 3 targets are met. And of course, culture, where we want to celebrate, culture locally, globally, and also make global citizens. We want to keep this at the back of our mind when we are also talking about sustainability and net positive, environments, because all of these need to get enhanced as we move forward. So net positive So net zero energy positive education. I mean, this is a long term, but I want to just take a minute to explain this term. Uh, Net zero energy is something that we all understand, but what does it do to education? These are two sort of synergistic terms, and I think when you do a net zero energy building, it has a very clear impact on education and positive impacts of education. And we've kind of tried and tested this out in various ways on our projects. And we'll get into the project that we're talking about. Um, so we want to achieve three goals. Net positive education is wellness, wellness of all the users within the building, within the environment. We want to educate. So all the pictures that you see are ways where if you display, if you create spaces where the students can learn about how the building is being designed for net positive or for sustainability, they kind of become the stewards of sustainability and take that forward in their life. These three images are where the students are looking at the solar panels. There is a rainwater harvesting tank and measurements of that which is being displayed in a school, and of course outdoor learning environments. And of course, there is energy conservation. Quickly, the first case study we'll be doing is West Elementary School. Now, West Elementary School is part of the District of Columbia Public Schools system, and District of Columbia Public School system, they had a modernization program that they have started. And in this modernization program, they want to ensure that each school has the same set or same level of infrastructure available. And for that, they have specified certain design guidelines. Now, these design guidelines include flexibility and adaptability, spaces to promote different kinds of learning, using the building and the site of the school itself as teaching tools, state-of-the-art technology, and a lot of teachers' collaboration. And three ways to do this is a full renovation of an existing school, or a renovation and an addition to a school, or a new construction. And the West Elementary for us was a sort of a new construction. What do they want? What's our vision? That every student feels loved, challenged, and prepared, right? So that's what we want to do in a learning environment. So quickly, these were the older images of the school, the West Elementary School. And if you look at the images carefully, you will see that the image on the right shows that there is very little, window. It's very dark. The classrooms are mostly lit with artificial lighting. The outdoor spaces are not green and not engaging. And obviously, we wanted to change all of that. These are some more images. The one thing that they had was a very 1970s open classroom or open type, layouts, which was the culture of the school, and we wanted to make sure that that does happen. However, when we redesign the school, there are enough partitions to create acoustical barriers. So, how did we start this and the project kickoff? So, first thing to understand is what are we trying to achieve? So simply, we were trying to achieve maximum daylight within all spaces, without a lot of glare. Thermal comfort, which includes temperature comfort, humidity, um, you know, um, all or even the quality of air within the environment. Then acoustical comfort, which means there is not of too much background noise, so that students are able, the cognitive ability for students to learn is better. And of course, indoor air quality, which is CO2 level. Right. So at the beginning of the project, it's very important to set goals. And we had 4 goals. One is to achieve zero energy. Second is to improve health and wellness of the occupants. Third is improved learning of the occupants. How does all of this affect the learning? And for this, obviously, to stay within budget, and that's the fine balance we would have to make, because you can make a very expensive, very capital expensive building, but at the end of the day, it needs to also fit within the budget. So just to give you a very quick idea of what kind of goal setting was done at the beginning, if you look at the bar on the right, you will see that the non-modernized schools were using up to 70 EUI. Um, this is energy utilization index, and the New West Elementary School was targeted at 18. So that was almost a 70% reduction in energy use that was targeted. Next was to get the internal environment certified by WELL certification, which is a third-party performance performance guidance meter. So we wanted to make sure that the design, the operations, and people's health and wellness was all assessed, and we were able to get this certified by a third party. Improved learning, whether it's daylight, whether it's reduction in carbon dioxide, whether it's curriculum, which means that student had full access to what kind of steps were followed, or what kind of implementation strategy the school had to reduce energy, both in terms of its systems as well as operations. And again, zero energy monitoring system. If you look at the right, there are all these monitors, and these are all live power consumption, which is easily accessible to students to look at. And once all of this information is available to students, they feel more, or even teachers or any occupant, they feel more ownership to or committed to that cause as well. And of course, fourth is budget, which is to make sure that all of this, what we're trying to do, is fitting within the budget. Now, of course, goal setting at the initial stages requires a lot of collaboration between different stakeholders, and we were also mindful of the fact that all of these collaborations do not end up eating into the budget of trying to make this school sustainable. There is a lot of work done upfront and a lot of work done after the school is operational, which is through post-occupancy support. So these are the charrettes and takeaways. Because this was an existing school, there were so many things, so many lessons that one could learn, and one could understand, and there were a lot of do's and don'ts that we could come away with. And this is a very important part of the goal setting, of ownership, of consensus building, and making sure that all stakeholders are equally committed. So whether it was HVAC system, whether how the kitchens needed to operate with having to provide 3 square meals, can the kitchen also be available to the community after schools, equipment, what kind of equipment we want to load, what kind of daylight, what kind of envelope we want to build for the school. So all of these were design charrettes that were conducted with all stakeholders at the beginning of the project. So this sort of helped streamline the project. Now, net zero design process. Now, this is really, really important. This was the final sort of outcome of what the school looked like after it was redesigned. So 550 students from pre-K all the way to 5th grade. And again, like I mentioned earlier, energy utilization index was at 18. So what was the big idea? I mean, simply, how does the building sit on site? How does the classrooms face, or where is the building facing? Where is the longest, edge of the building facing? What are the access points? How does the sun move? Where are the green spaces? How the green spaces talk to the rest of the neighborhood? Are we blocking anybody's sunlight by putting up a huge building? I mean, all of this was taken up at the initial site analysis. Then overlay that with program elements, right? Now, again, while looking at the 21st century theme of education, we want to make sure that everything comes together. We want to make spaces for learning commons, which becomes the heart of the campus, the collaborative space that we're talking about. We are looking at learning environments, which is the academic and classrooms. We want to have outdoor classrooms to again facilitate different kinds of learning environments. The library, the gym and the support, and how gym and library and all of these heavy capital intensive infrastructure within a school can be then used by the community post school hours. Outdoor play areas, where do we put that? Where do we put the lobby where all of these functions come together? So this was sort of, the program elements. And eventually this was the final master plan, where you can see that all the classrooms were kept um, in facing north and south. There's a central area, which a courtyard area which connects the two classrooms. There's a building on the left which is more open to the community, and the play fields up in the north. So simple, again, techniques which we all know, or building orientation. Absolutely, absolutely. The first thing one must do is look at the building orientation on site. This is the very first step that will ensure that the carbon utilization is, the energy utilization of the building is low, right? We strategically made sure that the building was facing in a certain direction. All the classrooms faced either north or south, because uh, those facades are easier to protect. And it was only kept 2 stories so that we had the opportunity to provide a clear story and bring in natural light into the corridors. We went through a lot of climate analysis, looking at sun path, looking at wind direction. This was a daylight study that was done on the existing classrooms. And as our research um, said that, if there is better actually daylight in the classrooms, um, students perform 20% better on math tests or 25% better on reading tests. And this is exactly what we wanted to do, ensure that there is a lot of daylight. We tested out by orienting the classroom east-west versus north-south. And clearly through energy modeling, we could see that there was already a 10% just by the orientation saving, on 10% saving on when you orient the classrooms in a north-south direction. Thermal comfort, again, looking at wind direction to make sure that the courtyards, there are no wind tunnels. It's a very comfortable space between the classroom buildings for students to go outside. It's well shaded during summers. It's not too shaded during winters. So doing this kind of thermal analysis. This was again very interesting. We did optimum window to wall ratio. This is the facade of the building, and this was worked out absolutely with with our engineers. We did not put a single window on the building before we did this analysis to make sure that we are getting the right kind of right amount and the right kind of light into these environments. So the entire facade of the building started with this And of course, being architects, all of this space have to come together in a beautifully crafted design environment, right? So looking at large spaces like your lobby or your or dining or the gym, and how we can make some of these spaces very, very interesting. Again, this is very quick study of strategies to optimize daylight, which if you look at the baseline, we had 17% daylight, and incrementally as we kept changing, added a clear story which faced south, added north light wells, recessed ceilings, we were able to achieve 62% of daylight, 3% of glare, and just keeping the window wall ratio to 25% only. Now, windows are the places where there is it becomes the place where actually there is a lot of ingress or loss of energy. So we wanted to make sure that window ratio is only at 25%. And eventually this was the rendering that we came out. There is a lot of natural light in these classrooms. You can see that there is diffuse lighting, there is recessed ceiling, and then some of the heart of the campus also gets a lot of natural light because of the clear story provided. And then again, this is all on conservation, but how do we generate energy, right? Using again the direction of the buildings and lot of photovoltaic cells to create energy on campus. and then displaying that. So making sure that all of these strategies that were used, whether it's solar power, whether it's photovoltaic cells, are all very proudly displayed within the campus, so that the students are made very aware, and they also own this as their own own school, and be very proud of it. Quickly, lessons learned. It needs to be a very collaborative effort from day one between the MEP, between the engineers, architects, and actually the clients. At every stage, it's an overlapping process. Nobody is doing one thing. The architecture doesn't come before engineering. The engineering doesn't come before architecture. It's almost an overlapping process of going back and forth. And of course, by now that the building is going under construction, construction commissioning will also become a very, very important aspect. So engaging the contractor right at the beginning of the project to make sure that the goals that we are setting up are also for them. And this is something we do, which is post-occupancy evaluation. We will do this after the school is occupied to ensure that, to actually test if all the design strategies, all the sustainability strategies have a positive impact on the learning environment. And then today's new normal, which is we are dealing with a lot of health and wellness issues. So we want to make sure that if the buildings have shut down, like schools have shut down today, they are not becoming guzzlers of energy. So, if you do have high performance buildings, even during unoccupied times, the building, the energy produced is far more, which can be stored if it's, and actually even supplied to the rest of the community if it needs to. Very quickly on another project, I'll just take about another 10 minutes. This is a project in India. This is Ashoka University that we have designed in Sonipat in Haryana. This was their first campus that we designed, which has a lot of stone jali, a lot of brick, natural materials. However, when we started designing the next campus for this, the client actually said, we want to make this new campus net zero, and that's what we will need to work with. So we had to start right from day one on thinking about how do we do that. So obviously we start with orientation of the buildings. We did a lot of studies with our sustainability team to ensure that all the buildings are oriented the right way, all the courtyards are the right size, they are well shaded during daytime, all the walkways are well shaded, and all of this required a lot of back and forth twists and turns of the buildings to ensure that we are actually achieving optimum temperature and comfort within the buildings and outside the building. We also did wind studies to ensure that, again, none of these courtyards are having wind tunnel effect or they are becoming, claustrophobic. So sizing the courtyards right. So all the buildings were moved and placed on the master plan to ensure that, thermal comfort and wind comfort is taken care of. So finally, this was a final master plan. And if you see at the images on the right, this is what we want: a lot of studying to be done outside of the classrooms. That's where the students meet on campus. That's where they interact. That's where they spend the best time of their lives on campus. And we wanted to make sure that that environment is equally exciting as it is within the building itself. Even on the facade, this was our first building that's going up, which is the academic building, had a lot of laboratories. We had a material palette already from the first campus. We wanted to continue, but again, we just couldn't continue just as it is. We had to do a lot of studies on the facade, testing it out, what is the size of the fins, what is the depth of the balcony, depth of the beams, how is it oriented, what is the window wall ratio, what is the facade ratio we want to achieve, and to make sure that that is what we are adhering to, and eventually this was the facade design. So this is again a very collaborative effort with a vision that was set by the client, but with our engineers, with our sustainability team, and the architects working hand in hand right from the day we put pencil to paper. So next steps, this is a very interesting way of understanding whether all of this is making sense, right? And in a school environment or in a higher education environment, we actually have numbers to test this. Is there less student absenteeism? Visits to nurses and doctors, or to the infirmary? Are the test scores getting better? Is the faculty attendance getting better? Is there lesser attrition rate? How is is the crime rate around the community lesser? I mean, all these are indicators to show that if you've designed well, all of this should be indicators to tell you that you've done a good job. So I think uh, as as people who are running these environments, I think we could look at these indicators as well to see, once you design a high performance environment, do all these indicators tell you what you're doing is right. We did a similar study, pre and a post occupancy, for Martin Luther King School in Washington, D.C., and these were the test results. 100% of the people were proud to work in the new school. 97% people say that it's a better place to spend their day. 90% agreed that the design of the school supports better education. And we'll continue to do these studies again to see if what we're doing before and after is actually making sense. So that's where I'll stop. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Shukriya Tyagarajan, for that wonderful presentation. In fact, how learning can be made fun. That's something that we need to look at. And you also spoke about how architecture and engineering come together to make this a reality. And the indicators that you spoke about, speaks a lot of success stories that you had with various clients. It's very interesting to see that. And I'm sure that going forward, to ensure that the students are healthy, well-being is very important to ensure that they grasp most of the fundamentals. So thank you so much. I think we will take the questions after all the presentations are over. So I would like to just go over to the next presenter, Mr. Mahesh Basavanna, who is the Managing Director of MEG Green Building Specialist, IFC World Bank. Mr. Mahesh Basavanna, let me just give a brief introduction of the next speaker. Mr. Mahesh Basavanna is a mechanical engineer who specialized in the design of energy positive, zero energy and water self-sustainable buildings campuses. He designed many passive and low energy cooling systems. Many of his projects are LED platinum. Mahesh leads a MEG DRL team and works directly with clients, identifying energy saving opportunities and ensuring design intent is met. He speaks at local industry events, sharing the lessons he has learned on net zero design, and gives company instructional lectures on new systems and strategies. He works as a consultant to IFC, World Bank, and responsible for developing green buildings regulations for countries such as Indonesia and Colombia, and many more. He is part of development of EDGE Edge and Apex City softwares, which are widely used throughout the world. And he has also been instrumental in many of the key projects across IIM Trichy, IIT Madras, Research Park, Infosys Hubli campus, HAREDA for the net zero energy and building. So a lot of key projects to his credit. And we welcome you, sir, for sharing your experiences. And I'm sure that all the participants who are there, kindly keep your queries after the presentation so that we can answer them. Over to you, Mr. Mahesh Basavanna, and please continue with your presentation. Thank you so much for joining us.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Anil, sir, actually for giving this opportunity. And actually today my talk about net zero campus design. Mostly at the I will not get into the details of it. So I will be talking about how net zero campus can be designed actually from the beginning if you plan well. So what is a net zero building and step to achieve a net zero? So I will be giving the I will explain the steps to make it net zero. This is from an engineering perspective. So we are a company called MACE, and then we work with architects and then the corporates on making on designing and then building a net zero campuses, either office buildings or the institutional buildings or the hotels or the large residential development. To make it a net zero building, the energy demand has to be extremely low, so that you will be able to use renewable energy in your building, and also you should have a low water consumption, and we should be able to 100% water, recycle the water and also the waste. So, and what is net zero is 100% of the energy demand shall be met by on-site renewable energy sources, and 100% domestic water shall be met by on-site rainwater harvesting, and zero waste to landfills. See, these are all the criteria actually for designing a net zero campuses. So we have done many campuses where we made the campus which are completely net zero, both in terms of water and also the energy. I will give some of the examples of the projects that we have done. So, like on designing a net zero campus, what are the few things that we need to look at? We have to look at the site, the wind analysis, the orientation, the climate analysis, the shadow, the insulation, and also the passive strategies such as shading, window to wall ratio, envelopes, and glazing, daylight and air tightness. Then the active services design such as low energy systems, lighting automation, plug load reduction, high efficiency ICOP equipments. And the fourth step is reduce the demand, understand the energy, the loads at different times of the day, and then accordingly optimize your demand, and then look at a renewable energy option. Then on the water flow, water sustainability, low flow fixtures that reduces the water consumption, harvest rainwater and recycle the water. So this comprises the net zero campus design. I will explain one by one. So on the site, we have to look at how the wind flow happens, and also the sun the path, and also understand the the geology or geophysics of the campus. Yeah. So this is on the wind analysis. This is one of the campus that we are designing for Maharashtra National Law University, which is coming up in Nagpur. So where we did, we took the whole campus and then put up the model and then understand, when there is a natural wind, how the wind happens. So this is a CFD, computational fluid dynamics analysis that will show where to give the openings, between the buildings, and you can see a lot of blue areas. That is all, it's a dead zone where there is no wind happens. The yellowish actually gives you a lot of wind. So we need to identify and then give the opening spaces between the buildings when you are actually designing a large campuses. So large campuses comprise of many buildings. So how do we look at the spacing between the buildings and the road widths, the building height? These can be analyzed by using this wind analysis. Again also this is another wind analysis for another campus design. So, and on the orientation, as Supriya said earlier, it is very important to orient the building. If you orient the building east-west, then a lot of heat gain actually, which is coming actually from the sun. So that increases your load, or that heats up the space. So it is important actually to design buildings which are which faces right orientation. You can look at, so on the east and the west facing, there are a lot of the heat gains from the solar. You can see this. The yellow actually shows from the roof also a lot of heat actually which is coming in, and also the east and on the west directions. So how buildings can shade each other also, that can be designed, or that can be viewed actually from this analysis. And also look at the climate analysis. What we do is we look at 8,765, that is 365 days and 24 hours, and then analyze where is the temperature actually is going to happen, and what is the humidity level, at what period you have the very hot and dry climate, dry season and also the humid season. So these kind of analysis actually will tell us to decide on what kind of cooling system that we should plan. So this is the shadow analysis. So this is another campus that we are designing for Indian Institute of Human Settlement, where we need to understand the pedestrian, the pathways, how do you build the road. You can see a lot of shaded areas. So that is where we can create the pathways so that people always go on the shaded spaces. So this is also the insulation analysis. This is radiation analysis, which is done at the larger level to understand the solar radiation which is falling on the buildings. Then when we are looking at the shading design, so the idea is we should get the natural light, but not the direct sun. So how do we design such building is to have a shading devices that will, you can see actually these are all the glass shading devices, and also you can see the horizontal shading devices and also the vertical fins that will protect the direct sun actually coming into the spaces. So this is some of the examples that this is Triple IT Delhi that we have done. You can see how the windows are designed. One is actually to reduce the the area of the window. At the same time, how this are shaded actually to directly to stop the sun directly coming into the building. The moment the sun comes in, it heats up the space, and you need a lot of cooling requirement, or you need a larger air conditioning system to cool this space. So any of these buildings, you can see a lot of vertical fins and then the horizontal devices has been given to stop the sun coming directly into the building. And this is the daylight simulation. So whenever we basically design a building or a classrooms or any spaces actually in educational buildings, so it is important to get the daylight from the morning to the evening. See, in India we are near to the equator. We get a lot of sun. So it is we should not switch on the artificial light to light our open spaces or the classrooms. So this is done to understand the daylight which is coming, how we can harvest more daylight so that the artificial lights actually can be switched off. So you can see some of the buildings where in the daytime from morning 8 o'clock to evening 6 o'clock we don't switch on the lights. It's completely daylight. This is National Center for Scientific Coastal Management. This is an education institution in Chennai, and some of the Infosys training campuses and then the offices that we have designed. You can also see the light shelf that basically reflects the daylight into this building, but there is no glare. There is no direct sun actually which is coming inside because of the vertical fins and then the horizontal shading devices. When you look at the window to wall ratio, what would be the right percentage of window area on the facade area or on the wall area? So if you look at how we can reduce, if you keep on reducing your window to wall ratio, you can see a lot of buildings which are completely glass, which is like 70 to 80% of the facade actually is on glass. And then if you reduce from 69 to 53, 53 to 40. So how the reduction can happen? Look at the school. Just by 40% window to wall ratio to 20% window to wall ratio, it can reduce around 5% of the energy consumption or 5 to 6% of the energy consumption in the buildings. Similarly, we have overhangs. This is this we build a simulation model and put in all the information to construct the building. Using this. It's a digital building, and then understand what suppose if you change the window to wall ratio or the overhangs or having a better glasses, how energy can be reduced. This is the kind of scenarios. It is a parametric simulations. It is called parametric runs, just to understand how energy can be reduced. So, and then this is a natural ventilation building. You can see these are all on the right side. First, actually, we analyze using a CFD analysis, and then we build these stack towers. This is a one building actually which is in which is in Hubli, is an educational campus where we use this stack ventilation to remove the hot air, in the building. So, and also you can see a lot of windows, cross ventilation windows, so that you can get this more cross ventilation. So about this, once we basically what do you call it, reduce your cooling demand by having an insulation, by having a daylight, by having a better efficient glass, by having a window to wall, reduced window to wall ratio, or right size window to wall ratio. So there we can look at what is the low energy systems that we can think of. See, this is a new technology that we work with. It is called radiant cooling system, and there is no air circulation. In an air conditioning system, you have a lot of air actually which is coming from the ceiling. So in this case, we have not used air. We used what is called a chilled water that goes along these fins. So the cooling happens actually through the radiation. So this is one of the technology where your cooling energy can be reduced by 30 to 40% actually from the conventional air conditioning system. So this also, along with the fans, that improves the comfort. And another project, this is a digital library that we have done in Ahmedabad. This is for Government of India, where we used underfloor air cooling system, where we from the floor, the cold air actually is coming. You can see these openings here, the grills. That is where the cool air comes in, and then the hot air always rises. So you can see this is the cold air, and then it just rises up and then goes out of the building. So this is first of its kind in India, where we use two-stage evaporative cooling to cool this building using this UFAD system, underfloor air distribution system. This reduces energy consumption by 40 to 50% if you compare to a conventional air conditioning system. And if you use efficient equipments like higher CO chillers and fat pipes, where the friction actually can be reduced, and also if you use better efficient lights, then that also reduces the energy consumption. So all we are talking about, how do we reduce the energy in the building by doing the analysis, so that you can think of a renewable energy system. So if you look at here, the base case when we started for one of the project, it is some 353 kilowatt lighting load. Then that has been reduced to 132 kilowatt by using efficient fittings. And also even air conditioning load from 694 kilowatt to 194 kilowatt by optimizing the building in terms of insulation, better shading devices, and roof insulation, having a better glasses. So from base case of 353, that has been reduced to 132 by using a better lighting system. And also air conditioning load from 694 kilowatt has been reduced to 184 kilowatt. This is by optimizing the building, your building fabrics. So then once we reduce the your load, then we are talking about very less kilowatt to manage. So we can install solar panels on the in one of the building. You can see on the left side we have put the solar panels. Here this is the campus actually which is IIM Trichy, where we have installed around 2 megawatt of solar panels. This is a 160 acre campus and a 2 million square foot educational institution, where we will install 2 megawatt of solar panels that is powering the entire campus. This is in Trichy. So this is about the energy, and I will quickly go through the on the water. How do we reduce the water? Now, if you use a normal conventional system from water closet of 8 liters versus a 6 bar 3 liters or a 2 bar 4 liters, wash basin which is 8 liters to 2 liters. So you can reduce the water consumption by using a water conservative fittings, and by using a low energy sewage treatment plant such as reed bed system, DWAT system, or SBT soil biotechnology or MBR system. So that basically reduces your energy consumption, and also it treats the sewage by using a natural living plants. Then, we have analyzed, what we do is when we take the, look at the site, understand actually what is the rainfall actually which is happening in the, in that particular area, and then how we can make, first we reduce the water consumption, then look at how the surface water and the roof water can be harvested, and then make sure that actually that it is, completely self-sufficient. So this is to understand the geophysics, of the ground. What is the topsoil, what is the, weathered rock, hard rock. We develop a complete 3D model to understand the ground. And then from there on, this is the water self-sufficiency analysis, where you can see the, the total rainwater falling actually, that is on the blue graph, which is falling on this side, and this is our water consumption on the red. So we are always positive in terms of water. Now I will show you the real pictures. This is a Indian Storm Management Trichy, the main lake. We have many lakes, like 3 or 4 lakes. Those are all cascading. So if one fills the another, and then accordingly it comes to the main lake. And this is a Maharashtra National Law University which we are working. So this is a new. So this is approximately around 12 acres lake, and this is around 10 acres pond that we have developed. So that collects the water. And this is a Mindtree Kalinga campus. It's a training center. We build a used pond which is around 2 acres to collect all the water, which is falling on the site. And this is an Infosys campus, that collects the water, and then this is used actually for freshwater application, and then water also is recycled and reused. And some of the case studies, you can see, many of our buildings that is completely natural leak and, day-lit building. This is IM Trichy, and on the left hand side, what I see is a library building. Around this, is a pond that helps actually in, cooling this space using evaporative cooling system. And some of the visuals of the campus. And this is for Center for Science and Environment. This is the campus in near Delhi, namely. This is completely self-sustainable. We have a solar panels actually next to this site, and that powers the whole campus. And and most of the buildings are naturally cooled or used evaporative cooling actually to cool these spaces. And this is IIIT Delhi campus. You can see all the windows having a shaded. And also you can see the jali wall actually that brings the cool air into the space. And this is another project, Akshay Urja Bhavan. It's a first net zero building, which is we have designed and implemented in 2009. So where the courtyard is cooled using this passive downdraft evaporative cooling system, and the whole building is cooled using this PDEC system. And this is Birla School, Hyderabad, passive cooling. So where it's completely cooled using this evaporative cooling system, natural evaporative cooling system. And this is another IITM, research park, IIT Madras project. And this is a national law university, that it is under the design. And you already seen the, the ponds that is already being developed. And this is an Indian human settlement. It's a net zero energy and water campus. This campus is coming up in Kengeri. It is under construction. You can see on the rooftop, roof of this building, we have planned a hydroponic system that basically produces, the vegetables actually required actually for this campus. And on the roof of the roof is covered actually using the solar panels that powers the whole campus. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mahesh Baswana, for that interesting presentation. In fact, you had covered aspects on how do we harness the natural lighting, the air, and of course water conservation, the radiant cooling system, which is very interesting. So it's very interesting to see that how we can reduce our energy, by looking at these natural elements. And it is very interesting to note that we can harness more of daylight, in many of our offices as well as school buildings. That's very interesting. So we would be taking the questions after all the presentations. Thank you so much, Mr. Mahesh. So that, after all the presentations are over, we will take the questions from the audience. And I would also request all the participants to keep their questions ready so that we will take it up towards the end. Now, the next presenter is Mr. Atif Mohammed Saeed, who is the project lead, Green Building Program, International Finance Corporation. Nice to have you, sir, for the event. Let me just introduce him for the benefit of all the participants. He is experienced in green building and sustainability professional with a varied work experience across private design firms, energy consulting firms, and global development organizations with demonstrated success in the form of millions of green floor area in multiple countries and green building regulations across 5 countries. He leads the technical team of programs in Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam, Mongolia, and China, working on development of the green building sector through regulations, voluntary standards, capacity buildings, and investment opportunities. His current focus is on global implementation of IFC's EDGE, EDGE, which stands for Excellence in Design for Greater Efficiencies, green building programs. He is a member of the Advisory Board Center for Sustainable Buildings, the Building and Construction Authority in Singapore. He was the President World Bank Jakarta Club Toastmasters International from July 2014 to June 2016 and area governor for 2 years in Toastmasters International. He also worked as Senior Energy Program Manager, Johnson Controls for 9 months. He did MS Building Design, Climate Responsive Architecture from Arizona State University and BR from School of Planning and Architecture, New Delhi. Very nice to have you, sir, and we are very eager to hear from you. And I am sure that we will have a wonderful learning experience after your presentation is over. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Anil. I hope you can hear me clearly.
Yes, we can see your presentation. Yes.
So I'm really glad that I'm following some excellent presentations. So all the basics have been covered, all the ground has been covered. So I'll be talking about some tools and some mechanisms for really scaling this up, for making it easy for university campuses, building owners, building occupants, building managers to analyze, design, and construct green buildings, and also to get finance for green buildings. So a brief introduction of who we are. As Mr. Anil said, IFC International Finance Corporation is part of the World Bank Group, and our focus is primarily on working with the private sector. And we do it in a few different ways. The primary focus is to increase shared prosperity around the world, especially in developing countries. One of the challenges to shared prosperity is climate change, and one of the biggest contributors to climate change are buildings and energy and water that goes into buildings. That's the whole purpose we are, and the World Bank Group is in this green building business. So the way we're doing it is through these 4 different initiatives. Firstly, the investments, where we invest funds in development projects. So that those could be, let's say, a bunch of hospitals, affordable housing projects, and educational projects as well. We've done university campuses, school buildings, both at the rural level as well as at the urban level. And for those investments, we help our investees to make sure that their real estate assets, the buildings that they're building, are really built to a high standard. And then we've worked with national governments around the world in developing green building codes, so mandatory standards. And we obviously have the EDGE certification system, which was just mentioned. So EDGE is a tool that we've developed and a certification system that was primarily meant for the developing world, but now it's spread all over the world. And in the upcoming version, it's going to cover every single country in the world. So I'll talk a little bit about EDGE and how that can apply to greening our campuses. So we can support projects, green projects, through our investments, through our technical advice, and through our market creation, which includes this EDGE certification and also an educational program, a green building education program that I'll mention at the end of the presentation. The first point of kind of contention that comes up is what really is a green building? It's like asking somebody what is healthy, define healthy. It's difficult to do that, to quantify that. But there have been different definitions. The one that we've agreed with and we are working with is threefold. Firstly, it should be verified by an independent party, not self-verified. So if somebody just says, oh, my building is green, without really that proper validation, then there could be some doubts about that claim. Then the second is the minimum standard. What really qualifies to be green? And we've tried to be to quantify this so it can be measured, it can be monitored, it can be evaluated and analyzed before the building is built. And this standard we've agreed to is a 20% improvement above the local baseline. Local baseline would be how typically buildings of that sort are being built in that location. So for example, if you're looking at a university campus in Bangalore, our baseline would be similar university campuses in Bangalore, how much energy they're using. Then we have the quantified impact reporting. So we want to make sure that the benefits are really happening. They're really being provided to the occupants, to the building owners, and they can be measured, they can be quantified. Benefits could include cost benefits, it could include energy reduction, reduction in pollution, and it also reduction in carbon emissions, which is the primary cause of climate change. And in the near future, it's already happening in some countries, carbon could become a new currency. You could start trading the carbon that you're reducing, carbon emission that you're reducing. You could actually monetize that. You could get some revenue for your campus if it's of a substantial volume. So we've aligned our EDGE certification system with multiple green finance standards with the primary intent of making these green finance easily accessible to the green building projects. So that means if you meet the EDGE standard, it becomes a bit easier to get finance from these green finance institutions. And there are quite a few of them around now, especially since the Paris Climate Accord. The EDGE system comprises of three different parts. Firstly, we have a free online software that I'll demonstrate today. It's at edgebuildings.com. Then we have a standard, which I just briefly mentioned, 20%, and I'll talk more about that later. And then we have a verified green building label, meaning somebody, a third-party verifier and auditor comes in and checks the design first, whether the design is really expected to meet that standard. And then once the building is built, the auditor goes and confirms that the building really has been built to that standard. And only then does the building and the owner get this certificate. So the 20% target that I mentioned, the 20% standard, is for energy, water, and materials. Meaning if you reduce the energy consumption for your building by 20%, reduce the water consumption by 20%, and reduce the materials consumption. And by material, I am looking at the embodied energy of the construction materials. So material, the energy that is used to manufacture and extract and transport the material in the first place. So we're quantifying that, and if you can reduce by 20, you meet the material standard. So you need all three to be met to meet the EDGE standard. Now the software is fairly simple to use. We've like you saw all those very interesting analysis figures from the previous presentations. If you want to do some of those, now not everybody has the capacity to do that kind of a detailed analysis. We provide some quick analysis, some basic analysis, and more of a guidance, saying that if you compare these two options, this one is a better option, so you go in that direction. And the key criteria we help judge people or make decisions based on is a cost benefit analysis. what is the cost of doing this measure or changing this design, and what is the impact both in terms of the financial returns as well as in terms of the ecological benefits, CO2 emission, and cost savings. So I'll go through the software in a bit. Okay, maybe I'll do it right now. So I'll run this video because unfortunately our website right now has this monthly maintenance period going on. So I'll try to run the video. You may not hear the audio from there, but I'll speak over it. So as I said, the website is available at edgebuildings.com. And when you get to the edgebuildings.com, you will see a lot of different pieces of information, including projects, case studies, and the certification process. But the key point I would like to highlight is this Edge app button that you will see on the right top. If you click on the Edge app button, you will be able to register yourself if you're going there for the first time. And this is a free registration. So there is no compulsion, there is no financial commitment involved. And you can immediately start using the website initially by selecting your building type. There are 6 different building types, including educational buildings. So you select your building type, you enter the basic information about your building, including the address, etc. You select your city. And right now we have close to 65 different locations in India that can be selected, and we are adding more actually. And you select your specific educational building type, whether it's a college, whether it's a school, whether it's a kindergarten, and there are a few other options. And it asks for some basic information: the size of the building, the total floor area, the number of floors, and the key functions. So how much is the classroom area? How much is the, let's say, the auditorium and the circulation area or the administrative building? And as soon as you do this, the software develops its own baseline, meaning it takes your building information, the geographic information of your building, and the physical size of your building, and applies the typical specifications that are prevalent in your city onto this building. And it calculates how much this building would use if it was built just according to the standard specification, the typical prevalent specifications in your city, how much energy it would use, how much water it would use, and how much materials energy would it consume. So once you've done all of that, you go to the next step, which is energy. And this is where you see the base case. The base case here is showing that theoretical baseline, taking your building and applying the standard specification. The one on the right is the improved case, which is where we will try to mimic our actual design by selecting the measures on the left. And what you see here is virtual energy, which is if your building does not have any installed air conditioning, but we know that there are comfort issues that might be possible. So this is the amount of energy that would be required to meet that comfort level, either through air conditioning later or through some other means. So you can start immediately by selecting the measures on the left, which start with passive design measures and go all the way down to solar photovoltaics and solar water heaters. There is help available if you want to understand any of the measures. You can open the PDF guide right from the software and read through that. And the software keeps giving you real-time information in terms of the cost saving. And also, if you look at the bar at the top, it also gives you the incremental cost, the additional cost that is required to meet that standard. So you can take your decisions based on what is the most cost optimum measure. Where do you get the least payback? And the same exercise can be done for the water section and for the material section as well. The material section is slightly different because here we are looking at the embodied energy of construction materials. So we have a drop-down menu for each of the material type, meaning if it's a floor slab, what kind of floor slab material are you using? And there are simple things. For example, using fly ash in your concrete might save you a lot of embodied energy. Using hollow core concrete blocks might save a lot of energy. Using aerated lightweight concrete blocks might save a lot of embodied energy. Using a UPVC window frame instead of an aluminum window frame might save a lot of embodied energy. So these are usually cost neutral items which can have a huge impact on the environment. So this has typically been not a very obvious choice for sustainability analysis, but we thought this was very important, so we've included it here. So in the end, once you've met all three standards, meaning 20% energy, 20% water, and 20% materials, you meet the EDGE standard, the overall EDGE standard, and then you can apply for certification right through this software. The software will allow you, take you to the next step where you can request for quotes and then start the process by uploading documents on the software itself. So that was the demo. Let me go back to the PowerPoint. As I said, this is available for multiple building types, including different kinds of educational buildings. And you can, on the website, see a lot of different examples of different educational buildings, including schools and colleges, etc. Schools and colleges, etc. that you can go through and see how they achieved the resource efficiency standard for EDGE. Now, if you want to go even beyond the minimum standard, you can go to the EDGE advanced standard as well, which is a 40% improvement above the base case. 40% improvement above the base case, meaning you're saving 40% on your electricity bill specifically. And that is a fairly advanced level of performance. And it is also a prerequisite for zero carbon. You heard this term in the previous in Supriya's presentation as well. So zero carbon is basically when your overall carbon emissions from the building, resulting from the building, is equivalent to the amount of carbon you're saving or the energy you're saving through renewables on site. So you can do that analysis through EDGE as well. And this is more of an operational one. So you actually have to report how much energy was generated on site through solar PV and how much was consumed that would be done through the electricity bills that are installed in the building. This was our first zero carbon buildings in the Philippines, and they actually leveraged that to get some green finance. So they used a green bond issuance, which was oversubscribed. So it was really attractive investment for investors there. So this is what the certificate ultimately looks like, where you see the actual savings expected from that bill and how they were achieved, what kind of measures were utilized to get that saving. That's written at the back. The process of certification is fairly simple. You go through the software just like we did, submit the intent to certify through that web application, upload all your documents, and then an auditor would be appointed who would review the drawings during the design stage and then subsequently in the post-operation stage as well after the building is completed. There are two certifiers available in India, GBCI and Sintali SGS. So either one can be approached to do the actual certification. So these are independent third-party certifiers, and they have a very strong global reputation for green building certification. GBCI is the same agency that does LEED rating or LEED certification as well. So EDGE can be used for retrofits as well. For an existing building, you can actually compare different measures and see what kind of improvements make sense for my building. So whether adding insulation, whether adding a solar hot water system, external shading, or changing the faucets, it would give you an impact of the total savings that you get and the payback as well. So this is just an example of a typical educational building. And then you could go for a deep retrofit option as well, where you go really, if your air conditioning system is reaching the end of its life, you could investigate different cooling options, including the low energy options that Mahesh mentioned in his presentation, and see what would be the cost and the benefit of those options. And this example we have shown you can achieve even beyond 50% savings and still have payback within 5 years. There are other tools also available. This is kind of another perspective of sustainability, which is resilience, meaning how long your building stay in place without really harming its occupants. And there could be different kinds of resilience, climate resilience, energy resilience, and a few others. So you can actually test your building's resilience by going through this resilience index. So I'll just take a couple of more minutes to talk about a green building education program, which kind of aligns very well with what we're doing here with Edge. We've realized in a lot of colleges around India and actually around the world in developing countries, there is a lack of skilled green building professionals, meaning the students that are often coming out, they may have very good understanding of architecture, of engineering, but sometimes these sustainability topics are maybe not as well covered. So we have planned a new green building course with the help of a global panel of experts from different universities around the world, including from India and some of the top consulting universities. And we have tested it out, and now it's being made available in India as well. We partnered with Dept in Ahmedabad to actually deliver the green building training of trainers. So meaning if any of the universities that are on the call now, they are interested in delivering this green building course, they could contact Dept, and that there would be a notice coming out very soon which we can share with everyone. And they can sign up and send their professors, their instructors to Ahmedabad, to Dept, to get trained to deliver this course, and they will be provided all training material as well to do so. And for universities in India, it's all free of charge. We are not charging anything to the universities at all. So it's an 8-module course of 3 hours class time each. And the universities can decide whether to deliver it as a mandatory course or an elective course. And the key purpose or the key learning outcomes that we're looking at are quantification, because you can talk in abstract about sustainability, but you also need some way to quantify it. If you have to talk to the investors, you have to talk to the building owners, this is very important that you can quantify. And this is a skill that we found lacking. That's why we're emphasizing on that. Secondly, how do you communicate this whole aspect of sustainability? How do you make a business case and convince the decision makers? And lastly, making sure they understand the technical aspects as well. So in the end, the students get a certificate from IFC and the university itself. So it could be a joint certificate. So again, I invite whosoever is interested to contact me and or one of my colleagues, and we'll get you in touch with the right people, etc. So with that, I'll stop my presentation. Our program is funded by UK and Swiss governments, and we are glad to provide this support to India and all the universities and developers, and we continue to do so over the next few years. So thank you again, and hope to take some questions later today.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kumar, for that very interesting presentation. Because what was interesting about it is how to quantify sustainability through an app. And the free software that is available, I'm sure would be of use to all the stakeholders, whether it is academic institutions, industries, architects, engineers, and organizations like ours. I'm sure that this is a very good input also for all of us. And at the same time, you have also spoken about how to train green building professionals and the kind of programs that are also available. I'm sure that it would be available for universities as well as industry as well. So that's very good initiative from your side. And we would be taking the question towards the end after architect Vasudevan Kadalail's presentation. So nice to have you, sir, and thank you for the presentation, Mr. Mohammed, and we would be taking the questions after this. In fact, we have architect Vasudevan again for the second time, and nice to have you, sir. Just a brief introduction of architect Vasudevan Kadalail. He has completed his Bachelor's of Architecture from Mangalore University, and he has also got a master's degree from University of Sydney, Master of Design from University of Sydney. Mr. Architect Vasudevan is a practicing architect with over 2 decades of experience, and he is the principal architect of Ecumen Habitat Solution based in Bengaluru, which he co-founded with his partners D.R. Baswaraju and Surendra Hegde. So he has expertise in designing hotels, convention centers, sustainable, affordable housing, estates, schools, industries, and private homes. So he graduated from MIT Manipal and later completed, as I was telling, Masters in Design Science, Energy Conservation. And he has also won a lot of awards and recognitions, the major one being the John Dixon Prize in Energy Conservation 2002 from University of Sydney, Faculty of Architecture Dean's Honor 2002, University of Sydney. And his firm Ecumen is the recipient of the following awards. The first is NDTV Grohe Design and Architecture Award 2015, Saint Gobain Economic Times Smart Green Award 2016 for conservation, heritage, and public utilities. He has also been instrumental in the creation of green building code for Colombia and Indonesia through the World Bank. These codes have been legislated and are being enforced. He is currently a member of the World Bank team conducting a building regulatory capacity assessment for the government of Kerala. He is regularly invited to numerous architectural schools as visiting faculty. So thank you so much for joining us, sir, in spite of your busy schedule. And I'm sure that we would be having a second opportunity to hear you, as well as, I'm sure that a lot of experiences from your projects would be useful to all the participants. In fact, it is very interesting to note that the number of participants has not reduced. It is in fact more than 200, which was there at the beginning of the presentation. So I'm sure that this shows how much interest is being generated. Over to you, sir, for your presentation.
Thank you for the opportunity to everyone who's organized this. And Anil sir, I'm audible and my screen is visible?
Sir. Yeah, you're audible and your slides are also visible.
Okay, great. So I think we've had 3 excellent speakers, and each one of them coming at this issue of designing green campuses from different angles. So I'm indeed honored to be in such good company, and I hope my presentation will sort of look at this entire approach to green campuses from a slightly different angle, and thereby hopefully the audience will get a sense of how things can be approached from different angles. So mine is at a very large level. I'm taking a very high level view. And it's mostly about an approach and how do we go about approaching designing a campus from the beginning. So some of it is also addressed towards the stakeholders, the owners of educational institutions. So that's the sort of angle that I'm coming from. I've kind of split my presentation into 4 portions. The first being what does it mean to translate a vision to a master plan, The second thing is to look at urban design issues within a master plan. So because typically campuses are large and they will have many buildings within it, and how each building relates to the other and how they're connected with one another. The third is the vision of sustainability that we need to bring into the projects, and what could be the different visions for buildings, the individual buildings that make up the campus. So these are the sort of the four portions that I'm looking at. So the first one, which is probably the most important one and probably the least addressed among our current universities, except for the very large universities, a lot of the universities start in an organic way, which means that they set up one institute, one building, and then slowly they organically grow as they get better and better, and as they grow over time. But the danger that we have had in India is that there is very little formal master planning that is done in the beginning. So I think that sort of needs to change. A lot of universities today are sort of in the 20, 25 plus year category, that which means that it was founded about 25 years ago. And many of them, I'm sure, are now looking at the next stage of expansion, considering that India is in a state where there is a growing awareness that you need more and more institutions, both in terms of quantity and in terms of quality. It just shows how both Supriya's and Mahesh's presentations showed the sheer number of universities that are interested in going in a more formal way. So these are sort of pointers that I want to kind of bring forth. So I think there is a necessity for institution owners or institution founders to be able to create or articulate or even refine, if there is already one, to refine that vision, to create a vision that is required. So it might be in words and ideas, and it might be what are the sort of aims and objectives that they're sort of fulfilling. And that kind of very rigorous inward-looking process needs to be taken up in the beginning in order for them to create a vision, and then the next step is to kind of decide who are the stakeholders, who are the stakeholders that will be a part of the vision. So stakeholders are not necessarily just the founders. They could be faculty members, they could be students, they could be other staff, other users of the institution, to some extent, even the larger community around that place. So I think there is a very important aspect of deciding the stakeholders in the beginning, understanding their aspirations, eliciting ideas from these various stakeholders, and to actually look at working together, to achieve the institutional goals. So I would call this a bottom to top approach, where the people that make up the institutional framework actually inform the basic the vision or the key components of a master plan. Then of course there's the once you do that and then you go back and maybe a small group of people actually present the vision to the stakeholders, and then you elicit responses, you refine the vision. So that all that is a kind of an important aspect, and I don't see this being done enough, but I think this needs to be done more. And once that is done, then you kind of break the vision down into more specific goals. So you could have an aesthetic set of goals for the campus. You could have inclusiveness and wellness goals. You have some safety and security goals for the campus. You look at energy efficiency goals, you look at water efficiency, you look at how you would want to look at solid waste management. And also at the most important thing being, how do you engage with the larger community? So an institution typically today is kind of in some ways insular at some levels, not all of them, but at some levels are insular. So how do you kind of get the community to engage, with the thing? And then, of course, finally, at the end of it, the master plan should really kind of help in pictorializing the vision. So you have architects and master planners who can help you do that, and that's the sort of the most important aspect of pictorializing the vision, because this picture then kind of stays in your memory, and it informs your decisions over a period of years. It also sets up a certain it also becomes a means of communication to other people when you kind of pictorialize the overall vision. When we look at a master plan, you need to kind of analyze the existing conditions. So a bit of what all the speakers earlier to me said. How do you look at the layer of climate, the layer of soil, the layer of water, the layer of energy availability, the layer of the community itself, what happens to all these when they come together, the layer of vegetation. So it's an important aspect, and you kind of synthesize all this together to actually come to the final kind of master plan and the final design of it, and then once the master plan is sort of ready, then you go into the next step, which is kind of starting to define the urban design aspects, and you start looking at what are the long-term plans, how do you allocate land. There's a project where it's a 150-acre kind of campus in Coimbatore, and we were looking at some of the existing buildings and how they relate to the rest of the areas, the amount of open space that is available right now, what are their long-term plans. So we are actually in the process of kind of deciding with the institution in a very methodical manner as to how we can kind of help them create a very useful land allocation plan itself. And then you start looking at mobility patterns, and like Dr. Ashwath mentioned, how do you make sure that there are not too many vehicles inside, or how do you control the number of vehicles inside? So you need to kind of start looking at mobility patterns inside. So what kind of a modal split you will have from cycling to motorbikes to cars and all these things, and how do you kind of look at that? So that's an important aspect in urban design that will determine how the roads are designed, and then it comes to actually street planning, and how do you kind of look at the relationship between the road and the green spaces, and laying down the services below the streets. All these aspects are also extremely important to be able to start getting into more details. We also sort of look at how does that relate to the immediate urban environment. So what I mean by that is, let's say your university is situated in a city, or maybe it's outskirts of a city, to look at how the land use has been sort of determined outside, and could the campus eventually become slightly porous in some way, which allows access at varying degrees into the access to outsiders. So, for example, typically campuses will have hybrid use buildings. You could have art galleries, auditoriums, sports facilities, cafes, and libraries that could become places where the outside community could come and kind of participate or make use of those spaces. If the campus itself can go out and spread some of the new initiatives that it has in terms of solid waste management and water harvesting, with the neighboring community, it just kind of creates that positive virtuous cycle. One of the things when we talk about porous design is to be able to address the sense of the problem of security, and how can we do it in ways that are not necessarily very obtrusive. So you could just have patrol cars around to kind of take care of some of these things, have network of CCTVs and things like that, and even retractable bollards. So you could have timings where you open certain parts of the campus for the public, and certain parts you would not probably have it. So, for example, in the 150-acre campus that we are doing in Coimbatore, the founders were saying that it was always their vision that all the green spaces could be used by the surrounding community. So now we are looking at ways of kind of demarcating sort of public, semi-public, and private areas within the campus. And then, of course, the sustainability vision, which is something that everybody before me has spoken quite a bit. So I will keep this short. But of course, making sure that we are sort of self-sufficient in terms of energy, and maybe even positive. And looking at water, I think Mahesh has spoken extensively about the fantastic work that they have done on making their campuses water sustainable. And of course, embodied energy, and that's an area that is increasingly becoming important. And universities like these can become demonstration buildings also. They could become actually a portion where the institution owner can make a statement, and that kind of can be picked up by the other parts of society, and then taken further. Solid waste management is an increasingly important aspect, and I think by making it a part of the educational campus will also help in teaching students, and when they go out, they understand the concept of recycling and segregation and all these things. So it becomes there are more and more informed citizens going out and spreading the message through and through. And of course, green cover, which is extremely important. It's also about understanding ecology. Again, in this 150-acre campus that we are doing, they've done documentation now of the number of birds, the different species of birds that are there, the different species of trees that are there, and all these are done through the various ecology clubs that are there within the campus, and it just kind of and they've come out with actually a little book on trees of the campus, and the birds of the campus and things like that. So it really kind of helps in sort of building awareness among students, among the various stakeholders, in terms of documenting our natural environment. So that's an absolutely important aspect. And of course, the larger ecology itself and how the whole campus interacts with everything else around. These are sort of ideas for how, what each building could carry as a vision for itself. So these are sort of sub-visions plugging into the main vision of the campus. So, for example, could buildings be educational tools? Let's say in an engineering campus, you have one building that has all its services exposed. This is the famous Pompidou Center in Paris, done in the 1970s. And this has all the ducts and all the pipelines, everything exposed. So an approach like this can make it very interesting for engineering students, especially when they want to know and understand how various engineering components of a building can kind of fit together. And the construction process itself can become an educational tool, and under very safe sort of conditions, students, whether they are in school or in college, I think they can be made aware of what construction processes are. It's a inherent sort of part of our society, and we're going to be seeing a lot more construction in all aspects of our life. So whether we are building our own homes or or other institutions, I think an understanding of construction processes in the society also is kind of useful. So and also many of the existing campuses will have a few heritage buildings that will have a certain nostalgic value for the entire thing. And how do you reflect some of that in the new buildings, or you look at a larger heritage around that place, like how Supriya was mentioning about the campus in Sonipat, where they have sort of taken some of those heritage aspects of jalis and things like that and sort of expressed it in a modern way. It sort of contextualizes the building much more into the environment, and it has a certain story, and architecture can speak that story and make people aware and connect the users back to that place. And buildings that produce energy, this is increasingly becoming common now, and they become you kind of make in certain buildings you could even make a statement out of it, and say that buildings do more than just shelter your needs and aspirations. And buildings that could grow food. It's increasingly becoming common to grow food in urban areas on terraces and things like that. And while it may not necessarily have make you completely food self-sufficient, but at least it could be a demonstration that food can be grown in different areas and different places in urban environments. This is the last slide of mine, and where buildings could actually kind of share resources. You have certain buildings that probably work late into the night, maybe a library, and there are other buildings that are not working at that time, and how they could kind of share resources through a smart grid. So that's the kind of different things that you could do. So yeah, with that I sort of close my presentation and hand the dais back to Mr. Anil.
Thank you so much, sir. That was a very interesting presentation. In fact, you have spoken about how vision can be brought into the master plan and how each building can be used as an educational tool was very interesting. I mean, a lot of learnings from there, how buildings can be used for growing food. I mean, although it cannot fulfill the entire requirement, but it can be used as a demonstration. That was a very interesting learning experience. Thank you so much, sir. So we will go on to the question and answers session because there are a couple of questions that has been posted. And starting with Mrs. Supriya Tyagarajan, there is one question which has come about how these concepts are managed in India. Whatever you spoke about. Learnings can be implemented in can all those learnings can it be implemented in project engineering is one of the questions.
Well, sure. I mean, Ashoka University is based in India, and all of that engineering concepts is the same across the globe. Climate might be different, materials will be different, but all the aspects are the same. So, and learning, I mean, humans are the same, right, across. So, learning ability or learning environments has to be the same across. So, I think all the concepts that we spoke about, whether it's ensuring natural daylight, um, lesser glare, making sure that thermal comfort or indoor air quality, all that is the same across the world. So.
Are the attributes that are used for designing of school buildings different in UK, US as compared to India? That is another question that has been raised here.
In the sense, I mean, of course, climatically, these are very different regions. So where specifically in DC, in Washington DC, where we were designing, we were trying to make sure that the envelope is airtight as possible, so that there is lesser a loss of energy, whereas in India, we're trying to keep the envelope as porous as possible. And that's because we want to make sure that there is a lot of natural ventilation. There is a lot of thermal comfort within the rooms itself. So of course the strategies are different, but I think it's a response to climate. That how do we respond to climate, which materials we use to respond to the local climate is very important.
Thank you so much. And another question to Mr. Atif Mohammed is, can edge application, can it be used for individual buildings? You know, we were talking about, that is one of the questions, can an individual building owner can use the edge application?
Absolutely, absolutely. Edge application can be used for any size of building actually, whether you're talking about a really large campus with 20 buildings, or a small house, or a small, let's say, an administrative block or something. It can be used for any size of building. The only building type where edge is not available is heavy buildings, because there it is the industrial equipment which is more predominant, and it overshadows the rest of the building design. Any other building can be evaluated.
So one more question to architect Vasudevan is that, you know, how difficult it is to bring vision into reality, you know, because we see a lot of vision statements and all that, but how an architect, how he can play a role in bringing that vision into reality, you know, has it been made possible in the Indian context is one of the concerns that has been raised.
I think it has been, and if you see right from early on, if you look at the IITs and the Indian Institute of Management campuses, and of late, a lot of good private universities, even Ashoka for that matter, what Supriya has designed. I think all of them are an example of good visions being translated into reality. So it's not difficult. It has precedent. It's being done all over the world, and my invitation is that more and more universities take that approach. You know, instead of just building in an organic way, to be able to step back and look at their visions. Everybody has a vision. I mean, it's not that there is no vision. You know, it's just a matter of articulating it, refining it, and then kind of getting it implemented. And so, sure, yeah, I think, and architects always work with a certain vision in mind, and it just makes it very useful, as it becomes a very useful design tool actually to keep you on track in some way.
Has there been any overlapping between the different, you know, say for architectural engineering, and how those coordination problems were solved? Any kind of
No, I think it's always a continuous back and forth, and you know, when we work in teams, and if you bring in all the consulting disciplines together, architecture and the other engineering consulting disciplines together, along with the client, and if we are all on the same page, then it's absolutely possible to do that. It can be made very seamless now, you know.
Thank you so much. So one more question to Mr. Basavanna regarding the net energy, you know, zero energy, this thing that you were talking about. Yeah. How many projects in the Indian context? Because many of the participants were, you know, thinking about how much of it has been implemented in our country.
Okay.
Is it
No,
more?
There are many buildings. You know, we have around 8 buildings which is already net zero. That is including Indian Institute of Management Trichy and Hareda, HCNC campus, and 5 more campuses.
And another question from Mrs. Kavya is, would like to do a course on green buildings. Kindly share the contact details. Who can help in that?
So if you are interested in doing the course that I mentioned, you could just me. I will maybe if I could type my email address in the chat box. You could just write to me. I'll send you the links.
Perfect. And another statement which has been made is that V-Guard headquarters in Cochin is a good example for energy efficient and green building. That was another statement that has been made by one of the participants. So I think other than that, we have completed all the presentations, question answer sessions on time. So that was very well organized, and all the presenters also kept the time, and it was a nice learning experience. And over to Dr. Santhosh for further proceedings.
Thank you very much, sir. I thank you very much for moderating the program. So it was a very nice program. I hope all the participants has received an ample information regarding the Green Campus. So now I request Dr. D R Swamy, sir, to deliver the vote of thanks. Dr. D R Swamy, sir, over to you. Sir, you are mute. Please unmute. Swamy, sir is in mute.
There is one more question which has come. Respected panel members, as we all know, that ideas which presented today are possible and doable, but from the common people's point of view, it's not so real doable. What suggestions would you like to give? Is one particular which has been asked by Mr. Deepak Patil. Would any of you would like to respond to that?
Yes, of course, we'll make it doable.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Watif, you were about to say something.
Yeah, I'll give a very short one. That we did not spend a lot of time on some of the easy fixes, and I think there was a mention of in all the presentations simple things like the right orientation, the right shading. We didn't spend too much time because these are simple things. So if we all take care of those simple things, then we can pick up. It's kind of half the battle is won. And only then, if you have the appetite, if you have the budget, then you go for the more expensive options. But at least we should all be doing those simple things of right orientation, natural ventilation, natural lighting, etc.
Thank you so much for that. And in fact, one of the points that was mentioned is that we are near the equator, so we should be using the natural light at least during the daytime. I'm sure that if suppose we are able to do that, half the battle is won as far as energy consumption is concerned. Very nice. Yeah. Over to you, Dr. Santhosh, for.
Yeah. Dr. Swamy, sir. So I request you to deliver the vote of thanks.
You can't hear him.
I think he is muted.
Swamy sir, can you hear us? Swamy sir, can you hear us?
I think there is some problem. I think.
Yeah, I will request sir to take it over.
I think there is some problem with the connectivity.
Okay.
Yeah, can you request Santhosh sir?
Yes,
to speak? Yeah, thank you.
Able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Now we are able to hear you.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. So there is some technical snag. Okay.
Yeah, we know that. We understand that. In this digital era, we have such minor hiccups. Please go on, sir.
Say, good evening to everyone, the participants, speakers, and other stakeholders. It's my, I'm really honored, and it is my great privilege to deliver this vote of thanks on this occasion. So today we had 650 registration, but we are able to see only 200 plus participants across 12 to 13 countries. So with a diversified background, that is one good thing. So this program is organized jointly by International Finance Corporation, a World Bank initiative, JSS Academy of Technical Education, Ramco Cements, and ACCI. So we would like to convey our sincere thanks to all the organizations who supported us in implementation of this program. So we convey our sincere thanks to all the organizations, IFC, JSSATE, Ramco, and ACCI. Today, this was to be inaugurated by our Pro Chancellor, Dr. B. Suresh. Because of some urgent work, he was not able to do this. So he conveyed his message, and he wished success for this program. So we sincerely thanks for his message and his support. This program was inaugurated by our Joint Director, Dr. Mahadevaswamy. We convey our sincere thanks to him for his inaugurating this program. And today we had a series of sessions by diversified speakers with a varied background and moderated by Dr. Anil Kumar Pillai. So we convey our sincere thanks to all the speakers, Dr. Ashwath MU, President of ACCE, Supriya Tyagarajan from Parkinson Eastman, Mahesh Baswanna, Managing Director of MCD Burr, Atif Mohammad Saeed, the Project Lead, India Green Building Initiatives, Vasudevan RK for their wonderful inputs on different dimensions of green initiatives in campus. We, behalf of all the organizing committee, we convey our sincere thanks to all the speakers for their wonderful inputs. And also, we convey our thanks to the participants. So this is our second program with Ramco Cement and ACCI on green initiatives. With this support and this level of participation really motivate us to consider a few more programs in this direction. And we sincerely thank you for your wonderful participation on this initiative and program. So this today, it is even my director was telling me that we are also very keen on implementing certain green initiatives in different campuses. As you know, the JSS, we have 350 institutions across the world, and our management is also very serious in implementing this green initiatives across its all the campuses. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. So we sign off from the event, and let me take this opportunity to thank all the participants, speakers, organizer, JSS, everyone. So let us hope that we catch up on a later event,
so
and we take this forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Let me also thank my colleague, Mr. Suraj, who was in the background,
Yes.
trying to coordinate all these things. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.